Hello Team FD and welcome back to World Cup Review, where Pat and I sit in an attic behind a picnic table and analyse what's happening at the world's most prestigious sporting event. It's a bit like winners and losers, but with World Cup teams. So let's dive straight in. Starting with winners, young Harold Kane is at the top of my list. Why is that?
Because he scored a brace as England
Yes!
beat Tunisia to open their World Cup in dramatic fashion. Now, this is a pretty good start because England traditionally have started tournaments slowly. This time their starting 11 has an average age of 26 years and 16 days. That's the youngest for an opening game of the World Cup tournament since 2002 when they played against Sweden. They've also got the lowest number of cumulative caps in a squad since 1962, though back then it was probably harder to go abroad and play friendlies. And in a way it made them kind of fearless, like they came out of the gates at light speed. Anyway, Harry Kane has scored his first England goal at a major international tournament with his 15th shot overall, added his second later on in the game. He's now got 15 goals in 25 appearances for England. The last player to score more in his opening 25 games for England, Gary Lineker. He got 20 in 25. Ridiculous, what a piss taker. Anyway, England, to be honest, were wildly dominant in this game. 60% possession, 18 shots with 8 on target. By comparison, Tunisia had 6 in total and only 1 on target, which was the penalty after that. Just moronic kind of elbow from Kyle Walker, which was stupid, but also I feel a little bit unlucky. Anyway, other than Kane, I think that we have to pay a little bit of attention to Trippier and Maguire. Now, Trippier created 6 goal-scoring chances, obviously as a result of taking set pieces. Only one player has created more in a single World Cup game for England since 1966. David Beckham,
yeah, boy.
7 against Trinidad and Tobago in 2006 when Dwight Yorke was playing as a DM.
I remember it fondly.
Yeah, I do not remember it at all. But anyway, Harry Maguire, I mean, they say he's got a big talent, but I tell you what he has got, a big head.
It's like a toaster.
That shit is huge.
It's like a bread bin.
Absolutely massive. It's like got a hammer for a head. And seriously, his header that led to the first goal was spectacular. It could have ripped a hole in time.
His head has its own gravitational pull, doesn't it? Every ball just finds his head.
Light bends around his head, it's that dense. But he created 3 chances from getting up in the air, won 7 aerial duels. Absolutely incredible. And it's really impressive to see that England, besides all their quality pressing and their skillful wing play, they've also got this other weapon, which is just dominance at set pieces.
Yeah, and I really like the sort of 3-5-1-1. It means that we can overload in attacking situations. It becomes a 3-3-3-1, doesn't it? I think that the elusiveness of Jesse Lingard was very prominent in the first
popping
half.
up all over the place.
Although sort of died off second half a little bit. But that's pretty comprehensive, Pato. So let's talk about a couple of other people, maybe some unsung heroes. Let's say Jordan Henderson being one, the metronome in that midfield for England. A lot of responsibility falling on his shoulders with such an attack-minded midfielder. And he was the player in the game with the most passes from midfield forwards though, Pato, because people say he could only pass sideways. In fact, he completed 6 long balls on the night. Only 5 players in the tournament have completed more so far. Guarantee one of those is Tony Cruz. However, not everything was overwhelmingly positive. It was a step in the right direction, but we did drop off second half with Dele Alli, Sterling and Ashley Young notable in terms of the drop-off, let's say. Ali, however, did pick up a bit of an injury, which no doubt played a part, made only 1 key pass all night, completed 0 dribbles and didn't seem entirely fit, wasn't at his vivacious best. Let's say. Sterling as well missed a golden opportunity. It didn't even go down as a shot. He managed 0 shots all night, in fact, but did complete 5 dribbles. Was dispossessed the most out of any player on the pitch, though, but that's his game, right? You've got to expect that from him. Much like when people say Alexis Sanchez is dispossessed a bunch of times for Manchester United. Yes, because that's his job, to carry the ball up the pitch. And he was always likely to suffer with a sitting defence. He's been given the hardest job on the pitch. Unpick 10 men in the box. Okay, bit of a struggle. Ashley Young didn't make a tackle in the game. And despite a couple of good balls in, maybe wasn't as influential from the flank as someone like Kieran Trippier. But England have scored a 90th minute winner for the first time ever during a World Cup match. So who the cares? Let's move on to our first loser.
Our first losers of the show are Colombia. One of the biggest shocks of the World Cup so far. Their 2-1 defeat to
Japan.
Whoa.
My boys.
Whoa.
You know, Nakamura's lads.
We ruled them out, didn't we?
We did. That take hasn't aged well, but the result was a bit of a foregone conclusion, maybe, after Colombia's terrible start, where former Aston Villa shithouse Carlos Sanchez was sent off after 3 minutes. I remember him having a very good 2014 World Cup, actually. Not so much here. His red card after 2 minutes and 56 seconds is the second fastest in World Cup history after Jose Alberto Batista for Uruguay versus Scotland in 1986, 54 seconds.
That's sick. I'm going to look that up on YouTube.
That's a decent effort. 54 seconds. In any walk of life, that is an acceptable amount of time. Anyway, Kagawa was actually awarded a free kick, but VAR stepped in, cleared it up, made up for the referee's error, and a penalty was given, which he tucked away. And how about this for a nugget of a stat? It's maybe the worst thing on these pieces of paper. Shinji Kagawa is the first player with part of the lower body in his name to score a World Cup penalty since Oleg Selenko. I'm very close to walking out. But anyway, let's move on to Juan Quintero. Surprisingly still on Porto's books, actually at River Plate at the minute, I think on his 3rd or 4th loan. He equalised for Colombia with a very smartly taken low free kick, and I do love a low free kick.
Yeah.
The best low free kick ever, Alan Thompson against Liverpool.
Okay.
Was it Alan Thompson or Petrov? I'm pretty sure it was Alan Thompson.
Don't know.
But yes, Juan Quintero is the first player to score in 2 different World Cup tournaments for Colombia. Whatever, you can clarify that for us in the comments below. I did not read this before. That has shocked me. It's knocked me for 6, but we're moving on. There have been more direct free kick goals scored in just 15 games at this World Cup than the entire 2014 edition. In fact, only 36% of goals at this World Cup have come from normal play.
What, like open play?
Yes.
Jesus.
Do you think that's weird? That's because it is. At Brazil, it was 70%. At the previous international tournament, it was 70%. So we're seeing the rise of the set piece. Hopefully it plateaus, you know, and sorts itself out, because I'm not into this at all. Osaka eventually got the winner, and it was a well-deserved result for the Japanese in the end. Pato, 60% possession, 14 shots with 5 on target. Colombia managing just 8 in reply. But their talisman, Honda, at it again.
Yeah, Keisuke Honda has been directly involved in 6 of Japan's last 8 goals at the World Cup. 3 scored, 3 assisted. In fact, he's the first player from an Asian nation to provide an assist in 3 different World Cup tournaments since 1966. That is a convoluted fact. Anyway, Japan become the first ever Asian side to defeat a South American team at the World Cup. That is absolutely amazing.
Sick.
Played 18, won 1, drawn 3, lost 14. So flying the flag for perhaps the slightly underrepresented footballing continents. But South American sides are not really at the races this year's edition. This is the first time as many as 4 South American nations have failed to win their opening game at a World Cup tournament since 1974. That is crazy stuff, right? I think now Colombia are facing a pretty uphill struggle. I mean, Poland haven't been impressive, but Colombia have still got to get through a pretty solid side there. Senegal, very, very good in that opening match.
Very fun side to watch, very committed.
Yeah. If you take 0 points against Japan in this group, I think you're running the risk of finishing bottom. I genuinely do. And James Rodriguez is not yet fully fit. So
yeah,
dark days ahead for Colombia.
Although Poland were trash.
They were bush, but I don't know. I mean, Colombia, they're now going to be without Carlos Sanchez, with James Rodriguez not quite at the races. Who's going to step up?
Who's their manager? Peckerman?
Yeah, Peckerman.
Best name in football.
He's a good coach.
Our next winners are Spain, and I only caught 20 minutes of this in the pub, you know, sinking a Guinness with the lads, because I was playing football in the park. Yeah. Anyway, why? What happened? Practically qualified, right?
Yeah, Spain, it wasn't really a great performance, but they beat Iran 1-0. Basically, Diego Costa got a goal in the 54th minute. It's his 9th in 9 international
And that is
starts.
generous when we say got a goal, because it just pinged off him.
Well, it's just, I mean, the goals at this World Cup have either been sensational free kicks or garbage deflections, bullshit, like that trickled past keepers. I don't know. Anyway, Costa has now scored with his first 3 shots on target at this World Cup, because of course he has. And the 2010 champions will progress to the knockout stages if they get a draw in their final match. Now, Carlos Queiroz' Iran did manage to level for a second through DM Saeed Estolahi's strike, but it was eventually ruled offside, and it was a pity because the roof came off the stadium when it went in. It would have been absolutely incredible. And I think they kind of would have deserved it for the way they limited Spain. They actually did a better job doing that than Portugal did. Spain had 81% possession in the first half, but they only got 1 shot on target. Diego Costa only got 12 touches. After the break, they actually had slightly less. They actually, their possession went down a bit. They finished with 78 overall, but 18 shots to 7 and 5 on target to 0. Oh. So they really stepped things up in the second half. It's interesting actually that Spain have got this reputation for playing attractive attacking football, because their last 5 World Cup wins have come with a score of 1-0. So actually they can be grindy when they needed to. Interestingly enough, I saw a thing last night that said that Iran averaged 17.2 fouls over the 90 minutes, whereas Spain, during the time they were out of possession, were averaging a foul a minute. Like, wow. So basically, like, Spain were just tactically fouling to try and get the ball back because they pressed so high. That's what Lopetegui did before he left.
Expect people like Busquets, right? When Koke came on as well, he was really disrupting play.
Yeah, those guys. You know, these guys have come up under guys like Guardiola and Simeone, and while people don't like to admit it, Guardiola, like, he's smart about these things. He understands that sometimes you've just got to break play up however you can.
And that's maybe where England are a little bit naive, right? Game management. It's kind of easy to, I guess, aim that criticism at someone, but when you see stats like that, and when you know Spain have the players without nous, it does become quite clear.
Yeah, I mean, these are guys who read the game really well, and they understand when the only way they're going to prevent an attack is just to hack somebody down. Like, sometimes you've got to have that guy who's willing to do that. But I know that we all feel a little bit sorry for Iran after this, don't we?
Yeah, I did. They got the rub of the green against Morocco, didn't they, with that last-minute OG, but didn't really see much of it here. But I expected heroic defending from this Iran national team. They actually went 1,121 minutes in qualification without conceding a goal.
That's like
domination.
12 games.
Yeah, it's crazy. Carlos Queiroz put together a watertight defence, hasn't he? But they do struggle against European opposition. At World Cup finals, they've played 7, drawn 1, lost 6. So they really struggle with that step up more so than maybe other nations. And in this game, they didn't manage a shot on target for the first time in 14 World Cup games. So that goal, like you said, brought the roof off, no less because it was a goal scored, but because it was a shot on target. Subsequently, this was the 9th 1-0 win at this World Cup, one more than the entirety of the 2014 World Cup group stage, but we still haven't had a 0-0. So we've had some close, cagey encounters where the football's been debatable, but we've seen a goal every game.
I'd say a lot of games have felt like 0-0s.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about one of them in a second. We've actually put someone who won the game in our losers because the game was that bad. Man of the match, though, in this game was pretty obvious, and I think he's been Spain's talisman throughout the tournament. It was Isco with 138 touches, a 92% pass accuracy, 4 shots, 9 dribbles, and 2 tackles. The second most touches in a World Cup game at this finals after Javier Mascherano in the 1-1 against Iceland. Iran's captain and right back Ramin Razayan played extremely well as well. Shout out to him. 2 dribbles, 1 interception and 5 tackles. My Iranian friends also tell me that the reintroduction of the number 6, whose name escapes me now, sorry Iran fans, was a big factor in Iran playing really, really well as well. I missed him big time against Morocco. I think he played in central midfield. So that's an observation. Iran can be proud though, and if they beat Portugal, they can still sneak through, which I think is a scenario that Iranians would have taken.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be amazing.
Going into the last game, right?
Come on, Iran.
Yeah.
I felt dirty then.
Fuck, see Iran. See Iran? That's Iran and Ronaldo. See Iran.
Our second losers are not in here so much for their results, as for what they've inflicted upon us all.
Totally killed the World Cup vibe, didn't they, yesterday in the office? Absolutely woeful. James Wayne put a bet on for Uruguay to beat Saudi Arabia 7-0 after they were totally dismantled by Russia.
That is dumb, man.
Stupid after watching them play Egypt. But nonetheless, there was a sort of a semi-hope, a faint glimmer of hope in the air before kickoff until we got 10 minutes in and, Saudi Arabia were passing it round them. They were the much better side, and that's why Uruguay are in our losers. They still qualified for the next round, courtesy of that Luis Suarez 23rd minute tap-in on his 100th appearance, so personal accolade for him. But, for the rest of us, it was a harrowing experience, especially for goalkeeper Mohamed Al-Owais, who misjudged the corner terribly, allowing Luis Suarez that milestone goal, 52nd in 100. Did I already say that? I've said it again.
Not bad.
Just to re-emphasise. Great return from him. And I was fine with bad nations, in every sense of the word. You always find it's the goalkeepers that struggle in particular, and that was the case here. That was amateurish stuff. But let's hope he finishes strongly, because Saudi Arabia certainly finished strongly in this game. Suarez became the 6th Uruguayan to reach 100 appearances over the 90. 4 others also in the squad: Godin, Christian Rodriguez, Maxi Pereira and Cavani. And his goal was the 25th scored from a set piece at this tournament, from a total of 44, which means 57% of the goals from this tournament have been scored from a set piece. Yeah.
Like I said.
Saudi Arabia, like I said, coming off the back of an absolute drubbing by Russia, ranked 53 places below Uruguay, still managed to edge Uruguay on possession with 53% and nearly matched them in terms of shots as well, with 8-13, 2 on target to 3, 5 shots on target over the 90, 1 was a tap-in. This did ensure that Uruguay maintained their strong record against Asian opponents. We really were struggling to put a positive spin on this, but they've played for wonderful. But I just can't get over how inept Uruguay were. They need a dynamic midfielder in there, don't they? Just to move the ball along. Lucas Torreira.
Well, it doesn't
get him in.
It doesn't even need to be Torreira. Like, Torreira can play that sitting role, and they can push Bentancur up front. Like, right, they've got the power to do it. They just refuse to do it for whatever reason. Every tournament, they turn up, and usually they play like 4-4-2 or something, and they are boring. They're so tedious.
2
to watch.
DMs, right? There's just a vacuum.
How the fuck did Cavani score like 10 goals in qualifying?
Yeah.
There was a point in this game where he got the ball and he looked around him for support, and there were just 3 defenders, and he pushed it past one of them and tried to run just 20 yards past it. It's not going to happen. You're 30. Like, it's ridiculous. It's so demoralising seeing this talent wasted, and that's what's so frustrating about Uruguay. Like, Saudi Arabia are just an authentically team.
Yeah.
That's what they are. Uruguay have talent and refuse to use it in an enjoyable way. Anyway, Saudi Arabia have been eliminated at the group stages in 4 of the 5 World Cups they played. The exception was in 1994 when they made the round of 16 and eventually went out to Thomas Brolин's Sweden. Their World Cup record is played 13, won 2, drawn 2, lost 9, conceded 32 goals, scored 9. Rubbish. Saudi Arabia, terrible. Human rights, terrible. They haven't scored in 9 of those 13 games. And this game, I mean, you can't even say they deserved anything out of this game. They didn't. It's just that Uruguay also didn't deserve anything. The man of the match, I guess, would be Suarez. He had 5 shots, 2 on target, obviously scored the goal. For Saudi, their best player was Dosari, the left winger. He had 1 shot, 1 tackle, 5 dribbles completed. Amazing. Anyway, the last game is Uruguay against Russia. They need a win and a 5-goal swinging goal difference to qualify top, which I think we all assume they won't do. And frankly, at this point, I'm almost rooting for Russia.
I know. What a turn of events. I'm actually rooting for Russia. Golovin is going to destroy them down that right wing. This team is ancient. Oscar Tabarez's style of football is boring. And quite frankly, I drew them in the sweepstake, and it's just demoralising.
If they get through to the second round and end up playing Portugal, that'll be the worst game of football ever played by that many talented players.
Like that game on The Simpsons, you know, where it's just like, who was it? Was it like Germany, Austria, or?
I don't know, where they just pass it and they're just like shouting. It's just ridiculous. Like, you're going to see Cristiano Ronaldo, Cavani, Suarez play the worst game of football ever put on at the World Cup. I'm almost rooting for it now. It's ridiculous. I don't know. I'm just sad about Uruguay being this boring.
Get your error on. Let's end this because we're
garbage now.
So that was it for another World Cup review. Good news report, a tap from you. Poor execution, dropping the paper.
I did that on purpose.
No, you didn't.
Did.
So World Cup reviews, Mondays, Thursdays. Thursday. Keep your eyes peeled for them. What else should they go and watch? Because a lot of people are watching the World Cup and not our content.
Our content
which is
better than the World Cup.
Yes, which is dumbfounding.
Yeah, we've got some great 10s and 11s coming out at the moment. And we've got Star Wars the Champions. That's happening again.
Yeah.
Can't wait for us to rig that.
I'm a little bit annoyed how Star Wars the Champions has kind of been, you know, the World Cup's kind of stole its thunder.
It's a bigger deal than the World Cup.
Agreed.
Though more predictable.